The Martian sun cast its ruddy glow over the domes of New Boston as the vote tally blinked into the public feed. 61% in favor. It was done. After 73 years under Earth's governance, the Mars colony had formally declared its independence. Did we just become our own country? Logan Granger muttered, watching the results scroll across the transparent wall screen in the colony's mess hall. His coffee tasted bitter, maybe out of anxiety, or maybe the beans were just stale again. "You're not wrong," said Rajiv Patel, seated across from him, "though technically we're not calling it a country. Sovereign interplanetary entity, whatever that means. Still the same red dirt and recycled oxygen, just with new branding." Logan leaned back. He was 39, a trauma surgeon turned Martian generalist after the last Mars-Earth med ship had arrived 5 years ago. His collar still bore a faint stain from the last emergency severed finger airlock mishap. A Tuesday, in other words. Around them, the mess hall was abuzz. Colonists had paused mid-meal, others had rushed in from labs and maintenance bays. Everyone stared at the feed like it would blink and change its mind. Independence. The culmination of years of debate, protests, petitions, and late-night arguments over how much Earth actually did for them. The truth was, Earth had grown cold, bureaucratic, remote. Their last shipment of critical antibiotics was 7 months late, and the response had been a form letter. Mars had been surviving on ingenuity and 3D printed parts for years. Still, independence felt like jumping off a cliff with a parachute you'd sewn yourself. "I thought I'd feel proud," said Logan, brushing a thumb across his coffee cup. "Instead, it feels like I just cut the last rope to the only ship in orbit." "You worry too much," Raji grinned. "We're doing fine. We've got oxygen farms, hydroponics, even a birth ray. This is just the next step." But Logan didn't share the enthusiasm. Something about it sat wrong in his chest. The following morning, Earth went dark. It started subtle. No pingback from the communications relay in geostationary orbit above Earth. The colony's deep scan dish blinked red instead of green. Logan assumed it was solar interference, maybe a flare. But by the second hour, the telemetry feeds dropped. By the sixth, all orbital cameras trained on Earth returned static. By the 10th hour, the science teams officially reported the silence. "Earth isn't responding," said Dr. Simona Yates, head of comms. "Not just a delay. There's no signal, no carrier wave, no data packet, nothing. It's like the whole planet unplugged." Colonists packed into the assembly dome. Some tried calling relatives via the emergency deep delay line. Others attempted direct satellite pings. Nothing. And not just Earth. Lunar Base Atlanta, silent. The orbital ring around Earth, which should have been constantly transmitting telemetry, was gone. Vanished from the star maps. That night, the panic began. "I have a daughter in Paris," whispered Martha Kendall, hydroponics manager, pacing outside the dome. "She was 3 last video call. I promised her I'd send her Martian soil." "It's probably a glitch," said someone, too loud. "We cut ties yesterday. Maybe Earth decided to shut us out." "Earth wouldn't ghost its own colony," Logan said. "We're still human. They wouldn't just disappear." But the days kept passing. On day 3, they sent a drone probe toward Earth. It didn't return. On day 5, the colony psychologist called a full mental health review. Anxiety levels had tripled. Sleeplessness was rampant. Logan found himself stitching up stress injuries, bruises from accidents caused by distraction. On day 7, someone tried to hijack the emergency shuttle. A tech named Oliver Liu made it as far as the launch chamber before Logan and security chief Dana Morris sedated him. "I have to know," Oliver screamed as they dragged him away. "I have to see it with my own eyes." By day 10, no one was laughing anymore. The Colony Council convened an emergency session. Logan was called in not as a physician, but as one of the few remaining Earth-born colonists. "We need to assume," said Counselor Bishop, "that we are alone." "Alone?" That word echoed down the dome corridors, into the sleeping quarters, through the oxygen farms, and into the power grid like a virus. Logan didn't sleep that night. He wandered instead, checking on patients too anxious to rest, offering painkillers for headaches and stomach cramps, knowing all of them stemmed from something no drug could fix. Then, as he returned to the med bay around local dawn, a junior tech ran up to him. "There's something weird on the orbital scanner," she said. Logan followed her. On the screen, a tiny object traced a spiral pattern near the inner asteroid belt. It wasn't debris, it had a flight pattern, controlled, intentional. And then, hours later, a message. Not from Earth, not from any human station, just coordinates in Martian orbital code. And a timestamp, 6 days from now. A meeting point. "What do we do?" asked Rajiv that night, sitting beside Logan in the observation ring. Logan didn't answer immediately. He stared at the sky where Earth should have been, just another dead blue dot in the void. "We find out who sent it," he said. "If Earth won't answer, maybe someone else will." And deep in his chest, Logan felt the first seed of a terrible possibility begin to grow. What if Earth hadn't just gone dark? Well, what if it was gone? The craft arrived exactly when the coordinates said it would. It didn't enter orbit or dock with the Martian station. It simply hovered beyond Phobos, spinning slow and deliberate, its surface matte black, shape angular and unreadable. It wasn't a design anyone recognized. No human flags, no known architecture. It looked like someone had folded geometry in half and forgotten to unfold it. Colonists gathered in the outer ring of the observatory dome, staring at the feed as if squinting hard enough would bring familiarity. "Do we hail it?" asked Dana Morris, arms folded, voice tight. "We already sent a probe," Logan replied. "They know we're watching. If it hasn't vaporized us yet, I say we listen first." It took 2 more days before the ship responded. Not with words, not even with an audio message. They sent a single rotating holographic projection to the colony's comm relay, a 3D rendering of Earth. Except it wasn't there, not as they knew it. The globe flickered, showing first Earth as it had been, blue, cloud-streaked, alive. Then it phased into something else, black, pitted, as if someone had erased its oceans with a knife, a hollow sphere, cracked open like a broken egg. "They're showing us what happened," whispered Dr. Yates, "or what's left." The council convened again. Panic was mounting. Logan ran extra rotations in the med bay, treating bloody noses from elevated blood pressure, finger dislocations from door jams and rushed movements. Nobody moved calmly anymore. Then the visitors made contact. Not by landing, not by speech. They entered the dome without opening a hatch. One moment, Logan was checking a Comtech's vitals. The next, 3 figures stood at the edge of the hallway, shimmered into existence like the air had just remembered they existed. They were tall, not grotesque, not insectoid, just wrong, like their proportions had been rendered by someone who'd only seen humans in blurry footage. Too long, too narrow, eyes that blinked horizontally. They wore what looked like molded silver fabric, and none of them spoke. Yet Logan understood. It wasn't language. It was something more primal, crawling into the base of his skull and sitting there like a fact he'd always known. You cut your tether. The voice wasn't a voice, more like a realization. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. Logan didn't flinch, but his breath caught. "You severed your planetary bond," Earth responded. It retracted its protection. "What do you mean, protection?" Logan asked aloud. The room around him had gone still. Others heard it too. Or maybe they felt it, each in their own head. The agreement was old, you forgot, but the anchors remain. Mars chose isolation, Earth vanished. "Vanish how?" asked Dana, now stepping into the hallway. "Did you do it?" The figures paused. "We observed, not interfered." The Earth failed a threshold. "You're not answering the question," Logan said. "Did something destroy Earth?" There was a silence, and then a flicker. The visitors shifted in and out of view, like a corrupted file. Something took what was left. It was not us. You are the remainder. Incomplete, vulnerable. They flickered again and vanished. The dome air was still. Logan could hear the soft beep of a medical scanner nearby. It sounded too loud in the silence. Did we just lose Earth to bureaucracy? Rajiv asked later, sitting beside Logan on a ledge near the greenhouse. Like we missed a cosmic deadline? I don't know, Logan said. But I don't think it was a punishment. I think it was a vacuum. We pulled away and something filled the gap. The visitors didn't return, but the implications remained. The colony began preparing defenses, if you could call rerouted mining lasers and airlock protocols defenses. They had nothing to fight with and nowhere to hide. 2 weeks passed. Without warning, the black ship moved again. This time it beamed down something physical, a box the size of a person, carved from translucent material, etched with symbols that shifted as you looked at them. It was placed outside the dome, sealed, inert. Logan was in the group that went to inspect it. He carried a scanner, but it returned gibberish. No temperature reading, no molecular composition. Then, as if sensing him, the box opened. Inside was a single item. A beneath, human, intact, but altered its surface embedded with hair-thin circuitry that glowed faintly blue. Logan stared, then reached forward and touched it. A rush of sound and vision filled his mind. Screams, fire, silence, a feeling like falling and never hitting bottom. He staggered back, gasping. Rajiv caught him. What did you see? Logan swallowed. His hands were shaking. New York, I saw New York, or what used to be. It was glassed, like a bomb, but not our kind. Everything fused. And then I think it was looking back at me. Something's watching us? Dana asked. No, Logan said. Something was watching Earth. It waited. And the second Earth didn't answer for us it struck. The box remained open. Inside, beside the bone, now sat a small metal disc. Logan recognized it immediately. It was a Mars emergency beacon, but not theirs. It was one of the 6 prototypes sent decades ago, before even the colony's full build-out. None had ever made it back. Except this one was burnt, scarred, and embedded in it was a final log. Only one line of text remained. If you're reading this, we didn't make it. Don't come looking. By the end of the month, the colony had canceled all expansion plans. Terraforming projects were frozen. Instead, they focused on insulation, camouflage, redundancy, because now they knew something had taken Earth, and Mars had been left not as an outpost, but as a warning. Still, people didn't break. They changed. Logan started teaching medical apprentices again. Dana reorganized security into full shifts. Martha, whose daughter was gone, began planting new seeds in the hydroponic beds, ones she named after places that no longer existed. And through it all, the black ship stayed silent in orbit, watching, waiting. But the colony no longer looked to the sky in hope. They looked inward, toward survival. Toward each other? The first Martian-born child died on the 114th sol after Earth went silent. His name was Ellis, barely 4, brought to the medbay pale and unresponsive. Logan tried everything: oxygen, stimulant protocols, defibrillation, but nothing worked. There was no trauma, no virus, no clear cause. His heart just stopped. The autopsy revealed something terrifying. Microscopic ruptures in Ellis's capillaries, neural shearing in his brainstem. Logan had never seen anything like it, not from trauma, not from hypoxia. It looked like pressure damage, the kind seen in rapid decompression events. But Ellis had never left the dome. The council ordered an investigation. Every environmental system was torn apart, checked, recalibrated. Nothing was out of place. No contaminants, no radiation leak. and then 2 more children collapsed during sleep. One survived, the other did not. "Something is wrong with the air," said Dr. Yates, standing beside Logan as they reviewed the environmental logs. "Or with us. We're stable, but the kids, especially those born here, they're deteriorating." Logan stared at the charts. Blood oxygen levels were normal, atmospheric pressure stable. But something was wrong at the micro level, something in the balance that no human instruments were designed to track. Mars had always been a compromise. Artificial atmospheres, artificial gravity, food grown under LED light. Maybe something Earth had done, some global balancing act, had held humanity together without them ever realizing it. And now, untethered, that balance was breaking. "We've built a system without knowing the rules," Logan said. "Maybe this planet was never meant for full biological development. And now it's killing our children." News of the deaths spread fast. Classes were suspended, parents stopped letting their kids out of the habitat clusters. The creche dome sat dark and silent. That same week, the black ship moved again. This time, it dropped 3 identical crates at equidistant points across the Martian surface. Logan was part of the medical team that accompanied the retrieval crew. Inside each crate was a single cylinder, 6 inches long, etched with unfamiliar glyphs. They were warm to the touch and humming faintly. "Are these weapons?" Rajiv asked. "They're either gifts or tests," Dana replied. "Let's assume both." Back at the Science Dome, Dr. Yates performed analysis. The cylinders weren't just warm. They radiated a low-level energy field that altered local gravity patterns. Not enough to feel, but enough to make every atomic clock within 2 meters lose synchronization. "They're affecting time," she whispered. "Or our perception of it." And when placed near the infants who remained in medical quarantine, the cylinders had an immediate effect. Heart rate stabilized, oxygen saturation improved, neural scans showed reduction in microstress patterns. "These things are keeping the children alive," Logan said. "Why?" Dana asked. "Why would something help us now?" They had no answer. But Logan had a theory. "They're observing, watching what we do, how we adapt. Maybe this isn't mercy. Maybe it's a lab." The idea sent a chill through the council. Still, the cylinders were placed strategically across the colony. The children improved. For now. In the days that followed, Logan noticed something else. People were changing not biologically, but socially. Old divisions collapsed. The council stopped functioning like a government and more like a cooperative. Security stopped training for threat response and began training in rescue, in medical triage. The colony began calling itself by a new name, Hearth. Not because it sounded safe, but because it felt like they'd lit the last fire in the dark. But not all were satisfied. A group led by a technician named Trevor Hines broke into the hangar and attempted to launch the last functioning deep-range probe. Their goal was clear: reach the orbit of Earth, see for themselves. They failed. The launch software locked them out. The probe had been disabled months earlier by council vote. Trevor screamed as he was pulled from the bay. "They're lying to us," he spat. "This planet is a box, and we're its rats." Logan treated the guard Trevor injured, a cracked ulna. He ran an ultrasound to confirm. Recovery would take at least 10 weeks with Martian gravity. More if the colony's calcium supplies continued to drop, which they would. Because their last supply cache from Earth had been meant for resupply, and Earth was gone. Then, a broadcast. The black ship sent a message again. This time, audio. Human audio. It was a voice, soft, female, familiar. "Mars colony. Do not search for what is gone. Adaptation is permitted, expansion is not. Remain." It repeated 3 times. Then silence. Logan sat in the medbay afterward, staring at nothing. "Do not expand," he said aloud. "They don't want us to grow," Rajiv said. "They want us to stay where we are." No, Logan replied, not just stay, stagnate. No more children, no more projects, just freeze. But that's death, Rajiv whispered. A slow one. Exactly. They met in secret that night. Logan, Rajiv, Dana, Dr. Yates, and 3 others. We don't defy them openly, Logan said. We don't build ships. But we do build, what? A second colony, underground, hidden, shielded from surface scans. If they're watching, we give them something to watch. And the real project begins under the ice caps. The plan was madness, but it was their only chance. So they dug. Slow, quiet, using old tunnels from water extraction projects. They rotated workers in shifts, masked the energy signatures, moved food and medical supplies via mining drones. And all the while, the surface colony lived on burning lights, running pumps, broadcasting basic signals. To the black ship, Hearth remained compliant. But below the ice, Mars began to change. Not with expansion, but with evolution. The first frost plants sprouted under the southern ice cap 260 sols after the silent broadcast. Pale green, stunted, but alive. Genetically modified from wheat strains and a few fragments of Earth DNA salvaged from a storage drive that barely survived decompression 6 years ago. They grew them in silence, no cameras, no signals, just careful hands and whispered triumphs. The underground colony Project Embers was now 12 modules deep, with recycled oxygen, rudimentary gravity stabilizers, and water siphoned from glacial reserves. Built in secret, hidden under layers of basalt and ice, it thrived while Hearth above pretended stagnation. They rotated leadership weekly. No single name appeared in system logs. The machines that processed oxygen were programmed to fail, then miraculously recover. All by design. Logan spent half his life above, half below. His hair had gone gray early, not from age, but stress. Too many sleepless cycles, too many med charts marked unexplained neurological failure. Mars was still fighting back, trying to break them. But they were learning. Children raised in Embers no longer suffered the capillary damage. Whatever the black cylinders did on the surface, the team managed to replicate the gravitational oscillation using old mining mag cores. Logan didn't understand the math, but he knew it worked. The kids laughed again, ran, drew pictures of things they'd never seen, oceans, clouds, dogs. By Sol 503, Embers housed 93 people, 12 children. The youngest was born in silence during a blackout drill, to a mother who never cried once during labor, but whispered once, "It was over, name her Mira, she'll need to see." And still, the black ship hung in the sky, watching. Logan came up once every 3 sols, to maintain appearances, to keep the surface illusion alive. He walked Hearth's corridors, greeted colonists with polite nods, issued medical clearances for oxygen fatigue or radiation checks. He even responded to an old hydroponics unit leak one day and spent 2 hours on his knees mending tubing like nothing else existed. All to make sure the watchers saw what they expected, a dying ember. But even ashes can smolder. One day, a second ship arrived. It didn't match the first. It was smaller, dull gray, its edges rounded, functional. It didn't hover. It landed, kicking up a plume of dust 2 kilometers from the main dome. This time, no cryptic messages, no cylinders, just a single pod left behind when the ship vanished hours later. Inside the pod, a human, or something close. The man looked 30. Brown eyes, dark skin, short-cropped hair. No oxygen gear, no comm implant. He was unconscious, but stable. No identifying markers. The med team brought him into containment. Logan ran every test. Human genome, 96% match. Close, but off. Protein markers suggested adaptations never documented in terrestrial medicine. When the man awoke 12 hours later, he didn't panic. He didn't even ask where he was. He smiled. I was born on Europa, he said, calmly, like it was a known fact. That's impossible, Logan said. Europa never had manned colonization. It was declared unstable before even the mining drones went in. The man he called himself Nolan only shook his head. There are places beyond the map, places Earth touched and then forgot. We lived in the ice, quiet, until Earth burned. What do you want? To warn you, Nolan said, they're not gods. They're curators, shepherds. They don't want humanity dead. They want it preserved. Static, unchanged. Way? Because change terrifies them. You adapt too fast. You reinvent yourselves when pinned. They see that as dangerous. But they didn't count on Mars. They thought you'd crumble. Logan exhaled slowly. We almost did. But you didn't, which is why I'm here. Others survived, scattered, hidden. You're not alone, not completely, but the Watchers can't know. They must not know. What now? You finish what you started. You dig, you grow. You teach your children how to think sideways. Not in defiance, but in deflection. Don't fight them, outlive them. That night, Logan didn't return below. He sat alone on the surface dome's observatory ledge, watching the sky shimmer in Martian twilight. He thought of Earth not the ruins, but the memories. Rain against rooftops, steam from subway grates, a hot cup of coffee on a too-cold morning. He thought of Ellis, of Mira, of every small life now bound to this rusted world. And he made a decision. The next day, Hearth's outer comm beacon blinked off. Not broken, retired. A message was broadcast on the old emergency channel. Not a plea, not a call for help, just a recording of wind blowing across the Martian dunes. The kind of sound that could mean anything or nothing at all. After that, Hearth fell silent. From orbit, the Watchers saw a quiet colony. Static, predictable, compliant. Below, Embers lit its 100th heater. The children painted stars on ceiling tiles. Mira learned how to patch oxygen tubing. Rajiv taught orbital mechanics to 16s using pieces of salvaged satellite parts. Dana built a pressure simulator out of an old rover's cockpit. Dr. Yates perfected her environmental stabilizer and began designing a second one for deeper tunnels. Logan spent his days in the clinic and his nights walking the unfinished corridors. He kept a log, not for data, but for memory. They were no longer the last remnants. They were the first seeds. When he died years later, quietly in his sleep, they buried him in the southern tunnels. Not with a stone, but with a simple carving. It read, "He stayed so we could go." And the colony kept growing. Carefully, quietly.